Taylor, we got to get into this breaking news. Literally, before we were about to start recording, I was scrolling through my phone and I saw the breaking news that Matt Chapman has signed a 3-year, $54 million deal to be a San Francisco Giant. So we were obviously preparing.
You know what
Go for it.
You know what the worst part about this is, Matt? I just need to say this, is that now when I say that I was predicting a contract to the Giants for 3 years with some opt-outs, it just sounds like absolute BS. And I'm pretty frustrated that he couldn't have waited just like 20 more minutes. Just 20 more minutes, Matt Chapman.
Yeah.
And it would have made me look a lot smarter. But, you know, here we are. And now I'm just going to look like a guy that is like, oh, I knew it was going to happen. And it's not great for me. But I'm happy for Matt Chapman.
Yes, and again, this was literally right before we were recording. I was scrolling through my phone. I saw the notification pop up. He is going to be a San Francisco Giant. He will be the San Francisco Giants third baseman. So, Taylor, give me your live reaction thoughts. Obviously, this literally just happened, so tell us what you think, man. Matt Chapman to the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, it kind of seemed lately, I mean, like everything was trending towards the Giants. None of the other teams really made that much sense for him. Like the Cubs seemed like an early fit. It would have given them probably the best defensive infield in baseball with Chapman, Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner, and then especially if you're put Bellinger's, he's probably playing center, but put him at first base, and you're looking at an all-time great defense right there. I think they're hoping that Morel can figure things out at the hot corner. He hasn't graded out well defensively, but they've got some other internal options there, and they've got like Nick Madrigal and Patrick Wisdom, so it didn't make much sense for them. A reunion with the Blue Jays didn't make much sense. I thought maybe if this drew out long enough, there would potentially be like a 1-year deal to the Blue Jays with Matt Chapman, just because if you're going into spring training late, it would make more sense to do so with a team that you're familiar with. The Mariners were also kind of on the radar for Matt Chapman, but that didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Obviously, they had the money for it, and he would be an upgrade over Josh Rojas, who's their third baseman right now, but also the Mariners have been making a concerted effort to get rid of these guys that maybe have a little bit more whiff concerns, and Chapman kind of fits into that category, and it also wouldn't make much sense for them to get rid of Geno, only to bring in Matt Chapman. I wouldn't have been surprised with the Angels, a 1-year deal to the Angels, signing Chapman sends Rendon to the bench or the DH spot, which is, where he wants to be because he's so burdened by the opportunity to play baseball at any given time. And the Angels have the cash. They're willing to spend it. The Giants have been trying to add power all offseason. We saw with the Soler deal, and I think this does that for them. Chapman only hit 17 home runs last year, but in terms of overall production, he really only had 2 good months at the plate in April and July, and outside of all those other months, he was well below average, and he does swing and miss a lot, but he also hit the ball harder than like almost anyone in the league overall. He had a 17.1% barrel rate. He was 5th in exit velocity, and his expected home run numbers last year were absolutely wacky. The difference between his expected home runs and his actual home runs was minus 3.7, which means he should have had on average about 4 more home runs, which was the 8th biggest difference in the league. Definitely adds the power element that they've been looking for. He's projected right now at about 25 home runs, which feels about right for him, and it adds some pop to that Giants lineup. But I would be curious to hear from Matt Chapman if he regrets rejecting that initial Blue Jays offer, which was around 5 years, $100 million, because right now I'm sure that's looking pretty good. But ultimately, I think this is a big win for both parties, but it's probably not what Matt Chapman was hoping for when he got into free agency this year.
Man, it's crazy how the tides have turned. Like at the start of free agency, when you hear what we're going to get into it later, what these Boras clients were looking for, as opposed to what they're actually getting. Bellinger was looking for $200 million and he gets 3 years, 80. Chapman's looking for something around the 150, 160 range, and he gets 54. So it's a insane. And again, it's opt outs too. So Chapman's got opt outs after both year 1 and year 2. So he could easily opt out and retest free agency. But you look at the projected lineup before Chapman was there, there's a lot of solid players in there, but there's nobody really outside of maybe Soler, and I don't know how everybody feels about Jun-Ho Lee now, depending on how he translates to the MLB. But there's nobody in there that you're like, ooh, we got to avoid that guy, So, and if you add Chapman, I mean, it's kind of more of the same, because he's not like consistently elite at the plate either, but he's always above average to his credit, and the defense is going to be there. So obviously it's going to help the Giants. It's going to make them a better team. But truthfully, I mean, when you look at the Giants roster, Chapman going there, I don't think it's like a game changer. I don't see them like making a playoff run now, or being a World Series contender or anything like that. I think the Yankees would have been a fit too. Obviously, upgrading over DJ at third base would have been nice. Just because his defense is so good, but the Yankees weren't going to spend that money because every dollar they spend now is going to be doubled as far as the tax goes. I definitely think it's going to help the Giants. I just don't know if it's really going to push them to the point of like contention. They've definitely brought themselves back to being relevant, but I don't know if it's enough to make them contenders.
Yeah, and they're in kind of a weird spot because obviously, I mean, I don't think nobody's going to overtake the Dodgers in that division this year. They're just so overwhelmingly good that, you hate to say that there's no chance anybody else is going to win that division, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close to being no shot. So really the hope for the Giants is a wild card spot, and I think they're close to being good enough to do that. And I think the biggest thing that Chapman does for them, I mean, like I said, he adds that defensive stability to the left side of the infield, which I think is really valuable. The thing I like looking at their lineup now is that he lengthens it a little bit. Once you get to that 6-7 spot, you start looking at those kind of more the platoon options like Mike Yastrzemski and JD Davis, Wilmer Flores. And none of those guys really scare you that much, but I think Chapman still has enough pop, and he hit the ball hard enough last year that he is going to give pitchers something to think about. And right now they have him listed at 6, and I think he's probably going to hit in the 5 hole quite a bit for them as well.
I'm going to be interested to see how his numbers look, especially in the Giants ballpark, because it's such a pitcher friendly ballpark. I'm going to be interested to see kind of how his numbers look.
Do you want to take a guess as to how many expected home runs at Oracle he would have had last year?
If he played the whole season at Oracle?
17 home runs last year. Do you want to take a guess what his expected are at Oracle?
14.
18. One more.
Oh, one more. Okay. Good for Matt Chapman, though. Guaranteed yourself $54 million, and now you're going to have an opportunity if you have a good year to opt out and get even more money. So, yeah, good for Matt Chapman. And